What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Boys Do Sports. Today we got starts and sits. We're going to go through our starts, we're going to go through our sits, then we'll go a couple favorite defenses, couple defenses we don't like. Quick PSA, we got another early game. Let's not have another Jaylen Warren situation like last week. I said on the pod last week, get up early on Sunday, set you an alarm, 20 minutes before the game starts, set your lineups, get everything fixed up, go back to bed, or watch the game. It doesn't matter, just get them set. You don't want to be that guy who had Jaylen Warren or the guy that didn't start Kenneth Gainwell because he had a pretty good game. Let's get into our starts. We got quarterback Justin Fields for the second week in a row. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. His two full games this season, he scored 29 and 27 fantasy points with 3 total rushing touchdowns and averaging 60 rushing yards per game. So he is the second in quarterback rushing yards, just 1 yard behind Jalen Hurts, and he's only played 2.5 games. The Cowboys allow 27.7 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, which is the most by quite a bit. Both these defenses are pretty bad, honestly, and this game's going to be another shootout. That's just what we're going to have to expect from Dallas from now on. Running back, we got David Montgomery. The Bengals allow the second most fantasy points per game and yards to running backs, and in my column last week, I had him as a sit because he had a 1.2 fantasy point game, which is really bad. So hopefully you listened and you sat him. And that was in week 4. In week 3, he just destroyed the bad Ravens defense. So I think we're going to see more of that. Expect the Lions to get up, control the clock by running, and letting David Montgomery take out his frustrations on this terrible Bengals defense. Wide receiver Jameson Williams. He's probably on most managers' benches because he scored less than 7 fantasy points in 3 out of 4 weeks this season. But last week, he had a ridiculous 215 air yards on 8 targets, but just ended up with 2 catches for 40 yards. He led the team in targets with those 8 in week 4. They are trying like hell to get him the ball. And the Bengals allow the 7th most fantasy points per game to wide receiver. So I think we could see a big boom Jameson Williams week. Tight end, we're getting saucy with it. Tommy Tremble. Bryce Young has been feeding the ball to his tight ends so far this season. Ja'Tavion Sanders got hurt in week 3. So he's probably going to be out. But in week 2, he had 9 targets, 7 catches, and 54 yards. Then in week 4, without Ja'Tavion Sanders, Trimble had 8 targets, 5 catches for 42 yards, and a touchdown. Like I said, Sanders isn't expected to play. And on the Are They Playing tool on Fantasy Pros, they give him a 6% chance of playing. So on top of all that, the Dolphins allow the second most fantasy points per game to tight ends. So maybe we'll see another good Tommy Tremble week. Nice little spot filler for the Tucker Kraft owners. And the guys, when you drafted George Kittle and Tucker Kraft, Kittle is your main guy, Kraft is your late round guy. Then you've been starting Kraft all this time, and now you don't have a tight end, so we're starting Tommy Tremble. It's fun. We're having fun. Get into our sits. Quarterback, Kyler Murray. Yuck. Titans are the 10th toughest matchups for quarterbacks and are only allowing 15.3 fantasy points per game. He is currently QB 15 on the season and hasn't scored more than 18 fantasy points in a week yet. Hopefully you're not stuck riding the Kyler Murray roller coaster like I was last year. Except so far this year there hasn't been any highs, just all lows. So hopefully you're not stuck on that. Running back Jordan Mason, which hurts my soul. He's on all my teams pretty much. He only scored 10 fantasy points last week against a tough run defense. This week he gets the Browns, who allow the 3rd lowest fantasy points per game to running backs. The Vikings might be down multiple offensive linemen and will have to throw the ball to score any points on the Browns, which they'll win the game, I'm sure, but they're going to have to throw the ball to do so. Obviously, you're not picking up someone off the waiver wire to start over him, But if you already had someone that was a tough decision for you and you were thinking about it, I'd go ahead and do it because you drafted Jordan Mason in like 8th, 9th, 10th round. Like, you've got other guys to start. So get him, unless, of course, you're just decimated with injuries then. Like me, I'm starting Jordan Mason in one league. Wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy. Despite averaging almost 8 targets per game, he is only averaging 7.8 fantasy points per game. Now they get a Vikings defense who allowed the lowest fantasy points per game to wide receivers. And the Browns made a quarterback swap this week. They are now going with Dylan Gabriel, which I think is much, much worse for Jerry Jeudy. Because Flacco is second in the league in pass attempts, and there is no way they'll have Dylan Gabriel throw that much, especially in his first start against the Vikings. So I'm out on Jerry Jeudy. I'm probably honestly out on most pass catchers with the Browns. I think I'm stuck starting Harold Fannin in a league, but rookie quarterback, hopefully we'll use that tight end safety blanket. Speaking of tight end, we got Hunter Henry for a sit, which also hurts my soul. The Bills are the third toughest matchup against tight ends, only allowing 4.3 fantasy points per game. And since Henry joined the Patriots in 2021, he's played the Bills 7 times and has only averaged 23 yards per game. Now, Stephon Diggs is looking like himself again. And last week, Hunter Henry only had 2 targets and 2 catches. There was a touchdown. But Diggs had his best game of the season with 7 targets, 6 catches, and 101 yards. So I think there's a correlation there. Diggs going up, Hunter Henry going down, and then just a bad matchup in general. Let's get into some defenses. Been a just hard position to handle. We got our obvious starters: Cardinals versus the Titans, Lions versus the Bengals, Vikings versus the Browns, Bills versus the Patriots, and Eagles versus the Broncos. Now, those are just the obvious high percentage starters. Now, here are a few teams that are less owned. Might still be on the waiver if you've been slacking this week. Colts versus the Raiders. Chiefs versus the Jaguars. Giants versus the Saints. And Browns versus the Vikings. It's going to be a super low scoring game. Browns-Vikings. Here are a few defenses that are highly owned that you need to avoid. Ravens versus Texans. I don't know why people are still starting the Ravens. They have had negative points 3 out of 4 weeks. Don't start them anymore. Might be able to drop them. I'm not sure, but yeah. Broncos versus the Eagles. Broncos got a good defense, but Eagles can score on anybody. Chargers versus Commanders. Chargers got a good defense, but they just lost to the Giants. Commanders are probably a better offense. Jaden Daniels is back, so we'll see. But yep, guys, that is all for my starts and sits. Good luck with your fantasy matchups this week. Don't forget, set an alarm, get up early. Thanks for watching.